Kathy and Giselle, welcome. Great to have you here. We're talking about, of course, Australia Post Rebrand. So, Giselle, tell me.
So it all started with the need to contemporise the brand as Australia Post re-looked at its business strategy. And the business strategy is in response to the decline in mail and the repositioning of our services to more e-commerce based operations, and really going after business and corporate and government segments and having a digital offer as well. So our previous brand didn't quite sit well in that place, and it wasn't really supporting the business to go out with a strong digital offer to a business audience. So the need was to relook at, to contemporise, to reinvigorate
and to rebrand, essentially. So what did you do, Kathy?
And it was also to make it, to keep it as relevant as possible. We are the second most trusted brand in Australia, and we obviously have more than 200 years of history, so we didn't want to be the ones responsible for the demise of one of the strongest brands in Australia. So what we did was, and also with Australia Post, you need to understand that it's an incredibly multi-layered, multifaceted company. Mail only makes up a very small proportion of what we do. There are a number of business units at all levels that we deal with, from both consumer, big business, small business. And so it was also trying to corral all of those areas so that we still had a common purpose, but that we remained relevant no matter where we were sitting.
So you have to keep in touch with that history, but also, as you say, keep across all those different interests within the organisation. To even touch something like that, as you mentioned, it's kind of almost a bit terrifying, I suppose. So what then did you do? What was the ask that you needed of the company that was going to take on this task for you?
So it was literally making sure that we held on to our heritage and that we kept what was still relevant and still resonant within the Australian communities, but also take it to that next level of, as Giselle said, e-commerce, the digital world. Huge disruption happening throughout all businesses, but especially for us. So it was really take what's great about the brand and then take it to another level in terms of contemporising it and keeping it relevant and making it relevant for the next 200 years. So it was taking the assets that we had and pretty much designing them so that they were able to work across all levels of the business.
Giselle?
It also started about 18 months ago when Greg Sutherland, our Chief Marketing Officer, commenced with Australia Post, and his mandate was to really crystallise and solidify our purpose. Everyone knows that Australia Post is there for the community, and we do an amazing service in terms of delivering the mail and being an active part of the community, particularly in times of crisis with bushfires and floods and so forth. But he was really able to link that, I suppose, that commerce nature of our business with the community part of our business as well, and, describing our purpose in terms of helping everyone, everywhere, every day to build thriving communities.
Tell me about working with principals then. What is it? I mean, obviously you're very clear about what it is that you want and what you don't want. You need to maintain heritage. You need to maintain that connection to the community. So how much then can you let go, if I can even use that term, to someone else, an outsider, to take on that task and then do it? I mean,
We worked very collaboratively with principals, and they were great in that they literally did become our right-hand partners, and it wasn't that we sent them away to say, go and do this and come back. We really did work on it together, and principals did a lot of work in, okay, what are the heritage strengths? The postal horn is a huge strength, which is the P, and then we encased that within what we're calling the modular box. And so they really took that as a starting point from a design point of view, and then how does that resonate through the everyone, everywhere, every day? And as I said before, with both business and consumer. And then we've got corporate and government, we've got youth, we've got a number of target audiences that we actually had to communicate with. So it was really, I guess, a collaborative effort in that we looked at all of our assets and how we use those assets and how we communicate to our target audience. So we had to make sure that there was a baseline, but then what did we dial up? What did we dial down? If you're talking to a big corporate and government client, very different to how you're talking to a youth client, a youth customer who might be interested in an identity service. Yeah. So it was being able to look at, okay, this is the contemporary look, We're taking the logo. The logo hasn't changed drastically, but it has been contemporised. And certainly there are two different logos that we use, but we're about the only ones that can tell the difference on those. Red obviously plays a huge part, but we wanted to use red in a very bespoke way. We didn't want to saturate red, which is what traditionally we'd done. And also there was the added factor of we bought the Star Trek brand approximately 3 years ago. So it was also bringing Star Trek into the business as the parcels network arm. And so that was an added complication of how do we bring the blue world into the red world as well.
What's the end result, really, if you can even make that comment now? I mean, you've done the rebrand, it's happened. So how has business changed? Talking about contemporising, where are you now? How has it worked?
The brand strategy is fundamental to the way the business operates now. So it goes to the foundation of our culture and how we go about doing things at Australia Post. So it is being embraced at every level, and our little phrase at work is "we love delivering," and that's a motto that's inspiring everyone day to day. And then it goes down to how we implement it through, obviously, the assets that we've created, but things like our tone of voice, where people, and we did a lot of work with Principals and 26 on creating tone of voice so that we can be authentic in how we deliver the language and how it relates back to the brand and what we're standing for, both purpose from a community and a staff perspective as well.
So customer experience has been
fundamental.
Right.
And a lot of the research also focused on not trying to be something that we weren't, and not talking in a very highfalutin way. We are Australia Post. We're the most ubiquitous brand in that we are everywhere. We've got more than 4,500 post offices for a start, which are often the heart of every community. So anything we did, we had to make sure that the post offices were core and central to what we were trying to achieve, and that they were a springboard into all of the other assets as well. And there's another added complication in that the post offices are made up of corporately owned post offices and licensed post offices. So a lot of them are small businesses, but they also have to come into the Australia Post brand. So we were very conscious that as part of the community, people become very attached, but we also had to make sure that we were relevant and contemporary enough to survive this huge disruption that's happening across, well, the world, really.
Yeah. If you hadn't done it, what would have happened? Or what wouldn't have happened, I suppose? Just stagnant? I don't know.
The brand wasn't ready or wasn't in a position to talk to the different segments it needs to talk to. We didn't have enough diversity in to allow a unique approach to target our offers to different audiences and different channels. We certainly didn't have a brand that could be displayed in a digital sense. So we've done a lot of work with Principals and as well Isobar on developing our digital brand guidelines. So really we've been this brand strategy and identity that we've done with Principals has enabled us to talk to the many audiences on any channel, be that, web, retail,
physical and digital are the two worlds.
So prior to that, you were pretty much trailing because you couldn't reach some of those audiences. You're sort of sitting there waiting.
We couldn't tailor.
Yeah, right. How long has it taken to even get to this point, to even start that rebrand? Go on,
well,
give us a number.
200 years.
I've been with the Australia Post for 4.5 years. 4.5 years ago, we did our first rebrand with Interbrand, and that certainly moved us further in the direction. But as I said, when Greg Sutherland came on board and we got Principals, we needed to take it to that next level to, as I said, for that brand to be able to stretch across business audiences, different channels. And so it's been evolving over the last 4.5 years, but the work that we've done with Principals has been amazing. So we're all really happy.
Earlier you said number 2 in Australia. Can it go up to number 1 because of the rebrand?
I personally think it should be at number 1.
Right.
I mean, when you think about it, we're the brand that everyone does use in some way or another every single day, whether or not it's getting the mail out of your mailbox, whether it's walking past a post office and saying, I need a passport application, or, we are literally the most ubiquitous brand. I guess Toyota could say they are, but they've had their problems. But funnily enough, JB Hi-Fi is the number one brand at the moment,
Yeah.
which I find, yeah.
This is based on...
But what my point being is that through design and thinking about your business in new ways and allowing yourself to take those risks, to take the business elsewhere, it doesn't really matter who you are, whether you're JB Hi-Fi or Toyota or Australia Post, you can actually position yourself in a better place in the marketplace.
And I think that from a youth point of view too, because, and what can happen to some brands is that their core target audience eventually dies out because you haven't brought the youth along with you. And so what we've really tried to do is make sure that we are relevant to them as well. They don't have the same relationship with us as their parents and their grandparents did. And so certainly I think that the contemporising of the brand has certainly made us more relevant to that target audience. And that is the lifeblood of any brand. You know, if you don't bring people along the journey with you, eventually your target audience do die out.
What impact, Kathy, has the rebrand had on organisational structure?
I think that it's actually been quite layered in its structure, but the way Ahmed talks about the business now is one business, two brands, the two brands being Australia Post and Star Trek, and that in itself created an organisational change where you have the enterprise, which I like to call the mothership, and then out of that is our postal services world and our parcels network world. And so really the business, not that it's split, but there are two distinct areas that the business is aligned under. And we tend to, from the vernacular, call it the blue world and the red world, but there is enterprise, and that sits above both brands and sits with the business enterprise at the very top. So the structure, and one of the things with Australia Post, and I've been there for just over 3 years, is that they're very quick to make organisational change if they find something's not working, if it's not resonating down through all business units. You know, you've got facilities all around Australia. It's not like we have one head office. So you've got to make sure that all of the moving parts are leading back up to what is the purpose of the business and the brand.
Okay. It's a lot of work.
Agree with that?
Would you agree? Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a huge, and there's us.
Yeah.
Just you two and all of those guys.
And principals. And, yeah.
And principals. Well, Kathy and Giselle from Australia Post, sounds like it's been a pretty successful rebrand for you and working with principals as well. Thank you for joining us at Design Summit in Melbourne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.